Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your host, Keith Varney.
Out of practice.
And Mike Indeglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
Valentine's Claus visited my house today. Did he visit yours?
Out of practice.
He did, but I say you can still love your partner and think Valentine's Day is dumb.
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly podcast in which Mike and I discuss David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we are up to Season 5, Episode 20, The Case of Harland Bassett. I am very excited to talk about this episode. We are recording on February 14th. It's Valentine's Day. How's it going, Mike?
It's going good. My wife is at work all day making that money.
Oh, yeah. Should make good money on Valentine's Day.
And hopefully she doesn't get sick.
Yeah.
So Keith, since we've made out, I figured, and we're spending some hours together today, you could be my Valentine maybe. But
I think that's nice. I would like to point out it was not recreational. It was occupational makeout.
That's true. Well, I'll take it any way I can get it these days. But this just in, folks. I don't know if you follow our Instagram. God help you if you do. Actually, it's much better than the show, so I hope you do.
Oh, vastly. Yeah.
But if you do, you probably know that Keith can't accept my love and Valentine wish because he has given his heart to another.
I have. And he's right here. Please allow me to introduce the third co-host, Charlie.
Charlie!
Who you don't even know you're live on the internet right now. So you're probably going to be seeing Charlie a fair amount wandering back and forth. If you see this tail around my microphone, that is what is happening. Charlie is a rescue. He is actually today, according to his paperwork, although I think his yeah, you see what I mean?
Yeah, well, welcome to the
his
club.
history is a little bit mysterious, but according to his paperwork, today, Valentine's Day, is his third birthday. So we are very excited to be trying him out here in the house. Trying out not because I'm not profoundly, deeply, chemically in love with Charlie, but because Jillian has allergies. So we are working through that. Needless to say, he is an amazing little creature. He's a cuddler. He sat atop my chest for the entire Bruins game last night. Puck dropped to the end of game. I couldn't even get up to pee. So he's pretty amazing. He was really shy in the shelter and then has come out of his shell in the first couple of days. And my goodness, what a cool cat.
And he's what? He said he's 3, you said?
He's 3, yeah. So
That's awesome.
and he is his namesake, Charlie, was my cat growing up, who was like my best friend for almost 20 years when I was a kid. And he, I'll put it up on the Instagram at some point. He and Charlie Jr. and Charlie Sr. are almost identical in how they look. Their hair, their markings, their face, everything except for their personality, because Charlie Jr. is a great deal more friendly than Charlie Sr. Although I loved Charlie Sr. in all of his unfriendliness a great deal.
Yeah, I have a grumpy cat too, who's chemically unbalanced. I've been informed by the vet, so I get it. You find they're all unique. They're unique snowflakes, Keith. And
no, they really are. they all have different personalities. And you're talking about Dee Dee, my buddy Dee Dee, who
Yes.
I get along with just great. I don't know, maybe I'm just a nicer person.
Well, you represent solely food and play to him. And
That's right, and no discipline. I'm like I'm the fun uncle.
yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I scruff him quite a bit, so he sees me as I don't want to call it a threat, but as a dominant species. So he's relatively good to me. Jen, no, he just bites her right on the face. So
Well,
not for long. Once they take those teethies out,
oh, because he's got dental problems,
he's
yeah?
got some bad dental problems, which explains the reeky breath. So hopefully, they say his mood, but his behavior might improve quite a bit.
Well,
so
if I had dental problems,
welcome to
I'd
the
be
cat
crunchy.
podcast, where two grown 40-year-old men just talk about cats and all their coolness.
I know. Well, I mean, frankly, like cats are very popular. Probably more popular
Actually-
than us or the show we're talking about.
This just in, the Patreon donations have been coming in like
oh my
water.
God, look at that. They just want to talk about cat dentistry. Well, and I noticed with Charlie, because when we got him, he was a little bit, he wasn't like underweight, but he was light. And I was like, that's weird. And it took me a few days to notice, but he is actually missing a lot of his little teeth, which I now realize he has trouble with dry food because he can't really crunch it. So once I've switched him to wet food, I'm like, he's like a vacuum cleaner. So we're gonna fatten him up no
Right.
matter what. So I don't know if it was a birth defect or what, because when you get a rescue cat, it's like, here's a cat. Here's what we think we know about him. We don't, he came from another shelter, and so it's like they didn't know very much about him.
When we got Dee
but
Dee, he was 8 weeks old, and when we took him to the vet, he was very small. And they're like, yeah, this cat is barely 4 weeks old.
Oof.
Clearly has not ever had mother's milk. He's like, doesn't know any socialization. He's trying to suckle the air, so we had to start bottle feeding him. It was like, he's clearly underdeveloped. So,
Well, it's tough.
yeah, man.
It's tough. Yeah.
They told us with unequivocally he was not going to live. They're like, it was kitten season. The first vet I took him to wouldn't even see me. He's like, it's kitten season. 97% of these cats will die, including your cat. So he's like, don't get attached. It was terrible.
Oh, that's that's awful. Well, but you did. You stuck with him. You took care of him. You nursed him back to health.
And now he's a pain in the ass.
He's a big dumb pain in the ass, which is what you what you sign up for when you
It's
get a
true.
cat.
That is true. So
So-
Keith, I have no segue. Let's start the show.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I
Welcome,
have a segue
Charlie.
to
Yeah.
yes, welcome, Charlie. And I wanted to just talk very briefly. I had mentioned it before that my grandfather was ill. So we have had an addition to the family, and unfortunately, we did lose my grandfather. And I will spare you a great deal of information, but I just wanted to talk about him just a little bit for my own sake.
Absolutely.
I guess. So I put some photos here. His name was Ken Wolvington. This is him when he was, God, he must have been 18, 19 years old. He served in the U.S. Navy, stationed in San Francisco, and he then became, he was literally an arms dealer. That's
Wow.
him selling a minigun for GE
Oh my God, that picture. I don't think that can probably even be on the internet, but here we go.
after the war. No, I mean, I think it's for the B-57. I think it's pretty much out of time now. So this guy who started in the Navy sold military weapons. He sold miniguns for a living. As it turns out, was really just a big theater nerd. And here he is performing community theater, and that is, to me, Yaya and Papu, Vern and Barb Emerson, who were his best friends growing up, and basically my third set of grandparents, performing community theater. And then the next picture is him performing in Bye Bye Birdie. That is, and I think that might actually show his personality more than any of the other pictures, because he was a giant theater nerd, and he was, one of the biggest influences in me becoming a theater nerd and music fan. So he directed community theater, he performed in community theater, And this is, I think, the coolest part about him was how he changed and developed and grew as a person. Because when he was in the Navy, this was back in the 40s in San Francisco, and he was on the F-word slur patrol searching for homosexuals in the Navy in the bars in San Francisco. And that is how he began things back in the 40s and 50s. Well, and cut to early 80s through his church, the CCP in Burlington, which is a very progressive church. He actually met and started talking to the first gay people he ever knew and became friends and got to know them. And then kind of instantly was like, holy shit, I could not have been wronger. And he spent the last 40 years of his life as working very hard as a gay rights activist, both through his church and through just political activism in Vermont. He spoke at the Capitol, advocating for civil unions. I mean, he obviously was advocating for gay marriage in general, but the battle at that point was for implementing civil unions, and was very proud to have been at least a small part in pushing that through in Vermont, the first state in the country to do it. So this guy who developed from that time frame, that era, and being that backwards in his thinking, at the age of 50-something, learned and changed and grew and became a fierce advocate for what is right, and for no other reason other than compassion and getting to know people. There was, for a family so specifically dedicated to fighting for gay rights, we're straight as an arrow. Which is, I think, a disappointment to him, frankly, because all of his grandchildren, all of his children, all of the rest of his family, just like the straightest people in history. But that didn't stop him and my grandmother, to whom he was married for almost 71 years, for fighting for what's right and becoming the one of the very few 93-year-olds flaming progressives in Vermont. So we're very sorry to have lost him, but he lived a very extraordinary and interesting life. And he grew as a person. He's not a perfect person, who is, but he grew and developed and got better every year that he was alive. And I think that is something to be said.
Keith, I say this not tongue-in-cheek whatsoever. In the bottom corner here, I get to know how Rocky plays into the episode today. But I will say that it's funny you're talking about your grandfather, and it reminds me of actually a pretty moving sequence from Rocky IV after Rocky takes down the big Russian. And the crowd, and I don't know, I'm sure everyone's seen Rocky before, but the crowd, it was cheering for the Russian in the beginning because they're in Russia, and then they end up cheering for Rocky. And Rocky says at the end this great line in the script. He says, "If I can change, you can change.
If I can change, you can change.
We all can change." And I think your grandfather illustrates that. It's never too late. And simply by your example and your legacy can continue that work. And so, I'm glad you got to share a little bit of Grandpa, and I hope that we can actually, be even remotely, even a modicum of that sort of inspiration to others. I hope that we can live up to that.
Yep, no, for sure. And it's like he turned around when he was in his 50s, and he turned to me around when I was about 10, and did a lot of good stuff. So so that's that. So before we go to filings and subpoenas, like we always do, I have to investigate whether my cat just shit under the desk.
Well, interestingly, my cat shit on the kitchen floor today, so it might be in the air.
Buddy, what did you do?
Did he shit?
I can't tell. Like,
this is an incredible podcast moment. Keith is going to go on all fours to investigate a rogue poop smell, which could or could not be himself.
No, it's like he either actually shit or that is the worst fart I have ever seen come out of a cat in human history.
Well, I'm going to eat Valentine's Day chocolates regardless as Keith searches for cat poops.
I don't know, but that's really intense. Dude, what did you do? I don't know. It's dissipating. So
Listen.
So
You gave him
thank you for the
cheese
commentary.
this morning. You gave him cheese. That's on you.
It was. That's exactly. My Lord. So, Grandpa, to whatever is next, I would like to point out that while I spoke about you, my cat farted so bad, I had to stop the podcast and see whether or not he shit somewhere.
People tell you that cats like dairy. It's straight up not true. You're not supposed to give them dairy.
Well, I didn't give him. It was a can of cat food.
I read it was cheese and stuff.
It was beef and cheese, but it was cat food.
No, well, they tell you what, it's not cat food anymore.
No, I'm telling. Well, that all right. So that's not going to be a food that we feed him moving forward because that.
Hey, lessons learned. Lessons learned.
I love trying to keep a train of thought when I'm like, did he shit on my lap? This is the worst thing I've ever smelled.
The cat was playing with a toy this morning. Cece was playing with something on the kitchen floor. I was like, what the hell is that toy? Is that chocolate? Oh, no, I hope she's not eating chocolate. You know, kill your cat. No, it was poop.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Just full on poop.
We've really explored many topics this morning.
Boy, we really have.
Ode to Keith's grandfather, cat shit, you know, the works.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it
dentistry.
is definitely time to move on.
Filings and subpoenas.
Charlie's on the piano.
Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas.
Cats on the piano. Keith. Cats on the piano.
What's cats on the piano? Cats everywhere. Just hold it in, buddy, or go upstairs. go crop dust Jillian. I'm podcasting. Okay. Our good friend and moderator Phoenix has called me out once again, as always. He says, Keith, I finally agree with you, and you only read half my message.
I thought that
you
at
did
the
the
time.
same thing that one time I complimented you. Are you okay? I'm never really okay. All right. I tried to explain this on there. The YouTube page that I was on, I think was like on the back end, and you click on the read more and it won't let you read more. I had to go to the other page. I didn't know that. So here, allow me to rectify the situation by reading your comment in full about last week's episode, 2 weeks ago, The Confession, to which Phoenix says, in completion, the three of us definitely agree on this episode. My reasons are that it didn't focus on the morality of the case, but rather the broader ethics of the law. Meanwhile, it developed the relationships of the characters using the tension created by the case. It had an A story so good it didn't need a B story.
Correct.
But you could also argue that the B story was woven in so seamlessly that you didn't even see it. This is definitively the practice and why the show stands apart from others in the same genre. Thumbs up sound, thumbs down sign, reply. That is the entire message. But I completely agree. That is definitely, I feel the same way. We actually agree. And I'm glad you called me on it so I could read the rest of the message.
You know, it's Valentine's Day. Can we just call a truce here? Can we all just be together as a family? Do we have to have this animosity all the time?
It's not animosity. It's a mild antagonism, perhaps. But no, I like it. I think the problem is we're too similar.
Yeah, okay.
Phoenix also says...
Although Phoenix has said on many occasions he's very in shape and has very good eating habits. So the similarities can't be that pervasive.
Agreed. Guilty is charged.
You win. You always do.
He also says, well, geez, Keith, Jillian's review of your book makes anything I would have to say about it pretty moot. And that is, of course, The Farmer and the Two-Faced Lord, written by Keith Varney, illustrated by Sean Varney, available on Amazon in paperback and digital download. It is a hilarious and upsetting spoof of a children's fable, which goes in a horrifying reaction, which is why Jillian's review was, this makes the world a worse place, which is...
Was she talking about the book, or was she looking you straight in the face when she said it, Keith?
She was looking straight in the face, and as the book came out of my brain, it's really the same thing.
That's fair.
But that was absolutely the greatest compliment I could get because that was the intent of the book. Okay, it is time to tell you how to join Phoenix, our moderator, and join the contact info. And you can email us at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media at Out of Practice on Facebook and Instagram. You can check out our blog at outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. And while you're doing it, do us a huge favor and join the jury by leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other podcasting service of your choice. If you don't, I will send Charlie to your house to fart cheese at you.
Ooh, that's yeah. Well, that's something. That is something.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of somethings, it is time to hop back into the time machine to discuss Season 5, Episode 20, The Case of Harland Bassett, which aired on April 29th, the year 2001. Which brings us to the question, what was going on
This day in the basement.
Well, we've given the what do you want to call it? The disclaimer a few weeks ago. Things are going to get heavy here. So this week-ish in 2001, about right on the mark, really. And it's interesting, actually, to revisit this. So I teased it, I think. So at this point in my saga with my father, he has decided that, he had been on a lot of machines, and I mentioned the vocal cord thing, and he had one of those kind of moments you hear about where, like, the clouds part, and he was sort of himself again. And so we were all in there as a kind of a family in the hospital and chatting and laughing, and my dad was like just so charismatic and funny telling stories, and it was so nice to have him back again. Like this sort of dementia he had been suffering from as well was sort of faded for a couple minutes, and it kind of got explained to him pretty specifically that, though he had battled back from a lot of the things that had ailed him over the past few years, this renal disease that he was currently in the throes of was not going to get better. And his kidneys had just like jumped the shark, and he was going to be on constant dialysis for the rest of his life. It would be 2-3 times a day or whatever it was. The specifics escape me. And he made the decision at the time that he did not want that. And so he made the choice. It wasn't us. It wasn't anyone. He wasn't under any sort of fog to say he was going to go off dialysis. And they were like, well, that is like your best case scenario is you'll live for 7 to 10 days. So, at the time, and I've talked about this in therapy quite a bit, I felt this great deal of relief. And and then subsequent 20 years of my life, I felt a great deal of guilt for feeling that relief because I was very consumed with myself and my feelings and all these things. And this is not, I'm not trying to air those right now. I'm dealing with that stuff. That's, part of the work. And it's understandable, and I don't blame myself for feeling those things. I understand it better now. But the time and the distance from that, as I was kind of thinking about it this morning before we went on the air, and I'm putting myself in my dad's shoes now. And I'm thinking, because he was 55 years old. So we're talking but a hop, skip, and a jump from us, Yeah. And his worries were all about us, right? It was like, are you guys going to be okay? And my brother I was having a time. And my sister was graduating high school, and my brother was in college and doing well. And so I think it was a pretty decent time, And I just think, what a kick in the nuts, right? Like, he had been a smoker for a good portion of his life. And then when the science came out that smoking could kill you, he stopped cold turkey. And my dad smoked those brown Marlboros that those nasty ones, and he stopped cold turkey.
Wow,
and
good for him.
Still got mouth cancer, beat it. He was a type 2 diabetic, or type 1 diabetic, whatever the bad one is, and was on insulin his whole life, didn't really take care of himself, found out he had, went in because he was having some chest pains, found out he needed emergency quadruple bypass instantly. Did it, the whole zipper thing, got better, beat it. Like, beat all of these things. But then at the end of his life, and then they started, as they say about a lot of diabetics, he got gangrene on one toe, they took a toe, they took another toe, they took half his foot, it was diabetes that just, he couldn't outrun it. He was one of those guys who was living, working his ass off to the bone every day, left for work, came back late, just busting his ass for his family, but didn't take the time for his health, didn't take the time to address the elephant in the room, and it caught up to him. And I think about that moment where you've been in the hospital and you've been battling dementia and your physical body's falling apart. And I'm sure he was worried about his business and all these things. And finally you reach that moment where you're like, you ran out of track. And to make a decision like that, to face your mortality while you're staring at your children, and to make that choice of sound mind, I don't know if that's, I just don't, it's hard to think about something more scary than that,
Oh my God. Yeah.
And just how tired you must be, or in pain, or all the above, to really face that down. And, thinking about that eases my heart a little bit, because, the guilt comes from, if I had not been in so much of my own shit, why wouldn't we lobbied for him to make a different choice? Stick around, like, maybe advancements are coming down the pike. Maybe we can get a dialysis machine at home. Maybe we can figure this out. But none of us, it was just what he said always went, and we just went with it. And clearly, to make that kind of decision as a grown man right now, I realize I don't know that there was mind changing to be had.
No, I mean, and it's obviously a very different situation that your father was going through, but I've been thinking about the same thing with my grandfather over the last couple of months. And there's a point at which it becomes cruel to to keep going. And I don't think you should feel guilty about being relieved about that at all. And certainly that's a very similar, again, definitely not the same situation that my mother's going through, and the whole family's going through. It's because that there is a relief. There is a relief to someone who has been suffering, and to someone, it doesn't look like there's much. If someone is suffering and there isn't a chance for it to improve. Thank you for helping me with my microphone, Charlie. And there isn't an upside. It becomes cruel to continue to suffer like that. And I completely understand your father's choice, and I understand why you would be relieved by that. And I'm not your therapist, but I certainly, if I had a magic wand, I would relieve you of the guilt that you feel about being relieved about that, because it sounds like it was horrible and tragic and like the worst possible thing, but maybe the right thing, and maybe what needed to happen.
Yeah, I think of two other things, and interesting about my mom is one of those people who's like, I don't care if you have to breathe for me, like, resuscitate. There is no DNR in her future. She's like, keep me on don't unplug me ever, just wheel me in a corner and just let it keep breathing. Like, she does not want to die. And and I think somewhere in my dad's head, I think he was like, if she is left to her devices in charge of me, I will languish, And I don't think he wanted that. And as it turns out, as you'll see, first of all, as a testament to his fighterhood, they said, what did they say, 3 to 7 days, something like that, and it'll be another 17 days before he will actually pass on. We'll get to that story. It's a decent story, and pretty actually moving. And we got to take him home, and he got to die like on his couch in front of his TV, in his home, and I think that for a lot of people is like what they want in a way. So,
Yeah.
and had he not made this decision, I don't know that would have been the case.
Well, I mean, clearly he was a strong, independent guy who valued his dignity and his control and his sense of, and I completely, I get it. I mean, like we've talked about it sort of comedically, but I'm definitely closer to where your father, like
Yeah.
I do not want to languish. I would not want to, because again, we've ironically been talking about it a lot this week, just coincidentally, but it's like, if I can't enjoy my life, the people in my life, the people that I love, the things that I love, if I don't care about who wins the Bruins game, if I'm not, happy to see my loved ones, then I'm not sure that the length of time is as important as the quality of time.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
And I don't think wishing that for somebody that you care about is a bad or selfish thing.
Yeah.
I think I wish for my loved ones the ability to choose how they want to do it.
Guess what? It doesn't
know?
stop there. My wife's maybe a relative of us, in my wife's family, passed away last week, and
Yeah.
not a good guy. In fact, pretty much the opposite. Regardless, you still don't want to see anybody lose their dignity or go out in those kind of ways. So, there's when you boil it all away, human dignity and compassion is really all we've got. And I wish that we talked about it on the practice, to whip it back around a lot. When we talked about people's wishes and blood transfusions and oh my
Right.
God, I've been some crazy stuff. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. And how people can't, especially people who are suffering, can't really make decisions for themselves about end of life. And I think that is somewhere where our civilization, specifically our country, really has got their wires crossed a bunch.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Anyway, the saga continues next week, folks. I think we have 2 more episodes before we can get past this chapter of my life and get into New York. So, that's right. We jump forward. We only have 2 more episodes of the season.
That's right. And then, soon we'll be able to cheer up by hitting right on 9/11.
I'll never forget the one thing about 9/11, and I'll also, it's sad. My dad dies 3 days before his birthday. Spoiler alert. And it sucks. Doesn't suck. Sorry. It's really hard to find words to express what I'm trying to say right now. I was sad on 9/11, not because just of 9/11 and the absolute torment of that, but my dad was, like we had talked about, one of those obsessive news hounds. And I just feel like it would have been an event that, I don't know, why would you want anybody? How could you enjoy? I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, because like good, bad, or ugly, sharing these experiences with your dad is important and valuable. And they're not always good ones; they're bad ones. But sharing it with your loved ones, I think, has value. So I hear completely what you're saying.
9/11 really capped a really shitty year, and then leapfrog us into. We had both. You had moved to New York by that. Let's talk about 9/11 at 9/11.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
So okay. Get us out of this hole, Keith. Do you have something?
Woo! Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Well, look, it's this podcast has always been what's happening and what happened, not the good stuff of what's happening
that's
and
fair.
the good stuff of what's happened. And
Fair.
I think it is more interesting and more valuable because of it. Nothing nearly quite so consequential out in Rochester in the aftermath of my junior recital. What was happening then was my girlfriend and I were making the decision to stay in Rochester for the summer,
Okay.
as opposed to go home for the summer, which I'd always done up to that point. And we decided to stay together because our plan was to get an apartment and move out of the dorms And the only way to do that with a 1-year lease was we get the apartment as soon as the semester ends, so it will end at the end of the next semester. So she and I were making that decision and getting ready to move into 100 East Avenue in Rochester. So we will get more into that and the summer that was, which was kind of fun and interesting. And ironically, one of the first things we did there was get our cat. Which of course was not allowed in the apartment, but we got away with it because we made friends with the super. Guys, always make friends with the super. Be friends with your super. Unfortunately, right now, the super in our house is me, and I don't know if we're friends, but we get along. So, yeah, all right. Well, let us hop forward and talk about...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
We are, of course, talking about April 29th, the year 2001. The cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about farmers talking shop at auction. Now, if you are a rural person, there are farm auctions where farmers go and they buy cattle and other livestock and feed and such. And in Vermont, that's headline news. That's the above the fold in the Burlington Free Press. Farmers buying cows. The top movie was Driven, which was a Sylvester Stallone racing movie written by Stallone himself and starring him, which I never saw. But sort of the first part of the synchronicity, as you would put it, with Stallone happening, and this episode you'll understand later. The top song, of course, continued to be All For You by Janet Jackson, or performed by Janet Jackson. Might be written by Janet Jackson. I don't really know. Speaking of synchronicity, as she is been in the news lately after the
Justin
Britney
throwing out his
documentary.
mea culpas.
Yeah, a little late, but
and I love that that's the focus, is that, Justin does the right thing. Oh, but aren't we talking about the women? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's we're just that's what I was saying with my brothers the other day. We're always still going to make mistakes. My goal as a person is to make different mistakes. And so we're making a different one now. Thank you very much, fake Janet Jackson. Which means it's time for...
It's time for Sportsball.
This week, the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs began, featuring matchups between the Penguins and Sabres, the Kings and the Avs, the Leafs and the Devils, and the Blues and the Stars. On the 29th, the Blues took down the Stars 2-1 on way to a 4-game sweep of Dallas. The Sabres dropped the first 2 games of the series before taking Game 3 on the road in their series. Sportsball's sad right now because football is done, and
there's
all
nothing.
of the hockey teams I care about are done. So yeah, that's what's going on. Is there any weather this week?
No, the extra segment has really taken a backseat to us talking for 6 hours at the top of the show.
No. So sorry, everyone. But I'm not sorry for making you listen to it, because you're probably not. I'm sorry for your thumbs pressing skip until we get to this.
I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
Oh my God, that video intro gets bigger and bigger. I love it. This episode, entitled The Case of Harland, Bassett, was interestingly, in one of the very, very few episodes in practice history, David E. Kelley is not listed as a writer on this episode, merely as series creator. It was written...
Now, who is going to shove it full of male chauvinism?
Oh, shots fired. David, we might not get a cease and desist from Fox Television because I don't think they care. David E. Kelley might come to our house and burn it down, but we're huge fans, and we have no idea.
I don't think we're getting an interview. I don't think we're getting the exclusive.
Look, we have no idea who is in charge of some of the things that we have not liked. And we have definitely liked a great deal more than we have not liked. Anyway.
Cut to Keith calling me half hour after the show being like, should you take that part out where you dissed David E. Kelly?
No, I stopped doing that. I used to do that all the time. And I'm like, fuck it.
Who listens to this shit anyway?
Yeah, I was like afraid, oh man, this is really going to break out. We're going to have tens of thousands of people listening and I'm going to really get in trouble. Well, we have been cured of that illusion. Anyway, this show was written by Alphonse H. Moreno, who last wrote on Brothers Keepers,
Great
and
show.
Peter
Great episode.
Blake, who last wrote on The Deal and Gideon's Crossover. It was directed by Daniel Attias, who directed The Deal and Burden of Proof, which means we only have one thing to do before we listen to the episode, and that is...
What is that supposed to mean?
What's your problem?
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
The cat would fart everywhere. That's exactly what would happen. The cat would fart everywhere.
I'm literally, I was certain that he had shit atop my shoes because that was so intense. Sorry.
Look, the episode's going to be about Harland Bassett. It's time we get into the cancer case. He spent all last week, quote unquote, tricking Eugene into co-chairing with him. So I'm going to hope. My hope is that we get an A case, right? We get an A case. But Keith, it can't just be an A case because I have a.
Here, wait, hold on. I have to find. Here it is.
Conspiracy theory.
You know, we are coming up to the end of the season, all right?
Yes.
And we had the big wedding. We had that was at Boston.
That was last season.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And so that was the happy thing. Then years before, we had the Jimmy almost died. So
right.
We've
and don't forget the killer nun.
Yes, killer nun. We've done a lot, right? So like, what are we gonna do season 5? And then I start thinking, well, we're coming towards like sort of the end of the series, right? We only got a couple seasons left, and then we know there's a big changeover of some sort. I don't know how that all comes out. So,
well, to be fair, we have 3 full seasons to go.
Oh, before that happens, or the train?
No, three full seasons of the practice.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Just bear with me. I'm thinking, what can we do that's like cliffhanger-y or just like huge news to like really jump things up? And I think, okay, well, like, who's already been almost murdered? Bobby, right? He was kidnapped by
yes, yeah, by New Kids
on the Block, and he was almost dead. Jimmy was almost dead.
That's right.
Marla and Rebecca got blowed up and were almost dead. Kelly Williams
blowed up, right?
Kelly Williams got almost murdered. So
really, she got stabbed,
right?
Well, and Eleanor almost died with the baby non-canon on the other episode. That's right.
So if you really boil it down, all that's left is Eugene and Helen Gamble. Eugene, Eugene's too important. So here's Keith. I think we are leading up to.
Oh shit.
And think about it. When I parse that out, they've been doing some weird stuff with the arc of Helen. They don't really know, right? She was redeemed, and then she was going back. And then last week was so weird with Lucy. I think we are queuing up for. Are you ready for it? Give me a drum roll.
Oh, okay. Drum roll. Hold on. And you know what? Let me do this.
Oh, yes,
Here it comes.
yes.
Here it comes.
You know what? This deserves it.
It's coming.
The death of Helen Gamble.
Oh, wow.
That's my big swing for the season, and we have 2 episodes to get there.
Wow. You're going to
3.
Kill off Helen Gamble. Lara Flynn Boyle. Mike is coming for you. And I would not threaten Helen Gamble because she will flat out murder you.
Well, I am not. I gotta finish. I gotta see it through. Then I guess we gotta get down.
You gotta make sure she's dead because she will come after you. You gotta double tap Helen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there it is, man. The death of the DA.
Wow.
Helen is done.
Wow. Wow. That's bold, sir. That
So
is
I don't know.
almost as bold as my cat's fart.
So I don't know how, but we got to plant those seeds this week. So not only are we going to do buddy cop with Harlan, we've got to plant the seeds of the death of Ms. Gamble.
Okay. Well, folks, Charlie's back. Well, all right. So if you would like to listen to what Mike thinks is going to be the beginning of Helen's death, the case of Harland Bassett, switch over to your podcasting service of choice, and we will see you back here on the YouTubes for the Oopsies.
And we are back, baby! Yes!
We are indeed. Woo! What an exciting underdog tale. We got our Rocky. Here it is. I was thinking, because we talked about Rocky a lot, one of the things that Jillian was going to do pre-COVID was she was going to do the first non-Broadway production of Rocky.
Amazing.
This summer. And unfortunately, and of course, Sly was going to be there at opening night. And of course, it all got canceled due
I did
to
audition.
COVID.
I did audition for that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Jillian got the part.
Yeah, I did.
So
I'm not sure that I deserved any part of it. So I'm glad she did, because she does.
I think you'd be an excellent Rocky. You and Andy look exactly the same.
You're right. Our abs are very similar.
You see you guys sitting together. It's like I couldn't tell which one was which. But I know what he couldn't do.
Do you know what Andy couldn't do? Yeah, same segue.
He definitely could not do this.
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Oh, yeah, Harland Bassett's coming out strong. He's taking a left. He's taking a right. Oh, the drug company's like, yo, we're not going to give you any money. Oh, he's down, but he's back up. He's giving more case. And now they're saying, we're going to give you $300,000. Oh, another punch, $400,000. Boom, $600,000. But Harlan says, yo, I played my case. I did my thing. Now I want all the monies. Ding, ding. Final round. Jury says, Harlan's the winner. $5.some millions. $5.6 million. Little girl's going to get a liver, and Harlan's got an office.
Yeah, except for she's probably not going to get that liver. The little girl's still probably going to die. Unless she buys it on the black market.
Well, she can afford it.
Well, there it is. She can, one of those times where you wake up in a bathtub full of ice after a night out for cocktails. Well, that girl got your liver.
Yeah. Yes, Keith. Yes.
There it is. Okay. Well, it is time to hand out some fake awards.
Wait. I don't want anything bad to happen on camera, so I have to take care of some things.
Oh,
okay. Now I'm ready.
That was vague. All right. So now we're going to give out some fake awards in a segment we call
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, Jackie, they are a fake award show that begins every week with
Most Valuable.
I mean,
this is a little anticlimactic, folks.
Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone wins the MVL. Yeah, no. Take it away. Let's hear the ode.
Harland Bassett, not only, well, I guess we can't, we'll talk about Ernie Sabella later. So, yeah, Harland Bassett, not only did he overcome a crippling physical ailment, he also, he showed he was not a dum-dum or a bad lawyer. He just was a little misguided. I mean, he tried a hell of a case. I'd argue maybe one of the best of the season, and won more money than we have won anytime recently.
That's true.
Without a judgment notwithstanding. and did so for all of the right reasons. You know what I mean? They didn't over saturate it with him needing to do this for the win. Remember, there was before in one of his other cases, it was about him winning, that was Richard Bay, right?
No. It was him. It was him, and he'd never won a trial case before. And actually, the same thing with Jimmy too, where it was like he needed to win in order to like have any hope at a career and feed himself. Like it was a lot about his personal stakes.
So to the credits of the writers, but let's stay we're doing Most Valuable Lawyer, so let's stay in the fiction of the universe. That wasn't what this was about. This was about doing the right thing for the right reasons, and even in the end, when he was turning down the money, it wasn't just because they were money hungry. It really seemed like he felt like I won this case and they deserve more, and we got there.
Yeah, and I think you diagnosed what's going on with Harland well during the episode, and you like he's not a bad lawyer. He's a lawyer with a horrible anxiety problem that has been holding him back, and I think that I think this episode proves that he's really struggles with anxiety, struggles with self-esteem, he struggles with trusting himself, because when he's perfectly capable of being a killer lawyer.
No, it's a false equivalency, but I speak from personal experience, plus a lot of performers I know who are incredibly talented people have had lesser careers than probably they ought to have had, due in no small part to anxiety and insecurity and mental health. Yeah. You're looking at him.
You're looking at one. I don't know about the talented part, but the anxiety part holding me back, hell fucking yeah.
That's why we do a podcast that no one listens to.
Why do you think we're here? Why do you think we're not doing other
We
things?
are the Harland Bassett of podcasting hosts.
We really are.
Save the millions of dollars.
My hairline's creeping up. My waistline's creeping out. I'm pretty much gonna be the same person.
And so it is with
anyway.
It is with glee, pride, and absolute exuberance that we hand the MVL OOPSY to Harland Bassett.
Congratulations, Harland Bassett. And I think by this point, I don't need to tell you to stretch, because you're ready.
Already famous because you've been on TV, getting a paycheck. Or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go. But you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
That one might get gift
That was good.
because
We
we were
nailed it.
synced up.
For an episode that had such a bleak start.
There's a lot of cursing. This one is absolutely explicit. A lot of fun. It's 12 hours long. We let's keep the train rolling. So what I was going to say during MVL that I kind of got out of, because it's not about the fiction of the universe. If you zoom the lens out, if you look at the journey of Ernie Sabella's time, he's done a lot of what seems like very easy character work, but the truth of the matter is that is not the case. I mean, he's been asked to be an absolute clown. He's been asked to show the absolute depths of just a man who's lost everything and has nothing. These huge, wide things. And then to this episode, he's asked to play both Columbo, right? Just like a master detective litigator, and also still that clown, and and now add on top of that, going through a heart attack and like terrible anxiety. Like it's just, and make it believable, and also play I still think he was set up to fail so many times. It's like the writers were trying to like some of these dum-dum moments were just so out of place to me, like the Jerry thing, like coming on just an incredible cross-examination of the drug guy, to the like he can't read. I mean, it really was up and down.
It's the same thing they used to do to Michael all the time.
Yes. But they have this knack of casting incredible people that can handle it, and because of that, I teased your analogy of Rocky, but it's exactly that story, right? And I just thought he was so excellent. And the moments with him and Eugene, the moments there was so much good stuff here, but I want to really focus it in on the courtroom scenes, right? He could literally take out any of the cast members we love and plop him in, and he could do it. That's how great he was in this episode.
No question.
So,
I just agree with everything you just said there. So I'll be quick. And what Ernie has done in this episode, in his arc on the show thus far, is he has made me feel things. He broke my heart on his. This is, I think, first or second appearance.
Yes.
Like, just really, it was so sad. It really genuinely broke my heart, made me feel for him. And, you know, and to fill us with elation here, like he is a wonderful receptacle for feelings, and that's sort of a awkward but bad way of expressing what an actor is supposed to be, and what a character is supposed to do.
You know, in kudos to the show, and we can talk more about this at Spare Tires. Generally, when we bring on the guest actor as a lawyer, their arcs end in dark places. Raymond Oz, perfect example. You know, like his arc was not one that was triumphant, and so it's nice to see one, at least temporarily. Who knows? There's 2 episodes. Maybe my harbinger of death will still strike Ernie Sabella, but I'm happy with the way. I hope that they just leave it.
Yeah, and you actually talking about other guest actors made me think that there are very few guest actors that come on that are good guys. Almost everybody we bring on is an antagonist or a secret serial killer or was accused of being a serial killer. Like, there just aren't a lot of really good guys that cross our paths that aren't our heroes, which I understand from the writing standpoint. You want us to like our heroes and root for them. And so the way you do that is you throw in obstacles. You throw in people who are problems and get in the way, and you shine a positive light on your heroes by how they interact with shitty people that come across them. But every once in a while, it's so nice to come across a character that we love that's not a main cast member. So anyway, congratulations to Ernie Sabella with your best guest actor. And now it's time for...
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Yeah, quite frankly, I think that, you know, truth be told, the other guest actor, dickhead,
James Rebhorn, was
really,
also terrific.
Yeah, he really should be recognized here as well. But nobody really in our, I mean, we mentioned it. Look, Jimmy made a lot of faces and wasn't as involved as what made the triumphant arc so triumphant was that juxtaposition that only Steve Harris can bring. Just dripping disdain. So much so that in the end, when the victory, and look, he even tried to counsel him, Harland, the best he could, to say, "Hey, look, we won this case. You did a great job. Take the money." But yet deferred. And Steve I said it in the middle of the episode, if you were listening, like, Steve just can be there. He's one of those people whose gravitas alone is excellent acting, and he did that reacting stuff today better than anybody does it. And so I don't see how we don't pick Steve Harris here.
Well, he's really the only one of our characters
also that.
Who is even in the. I mean, Jimmy's just sort of there, and obviously it's Eugene and Steve Harris that is, and it's. I'll talk about it in Spare Tires, but our main cast really were supporting players in this episode. But nonetheless, Steve Harris, way to do it. Which brings us to our good friend,
the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
That was last week. Yep. Let's sit in it for a minute, Keith. We earned it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Look how young and pretty we were.
Yep.
How many years ago do you think that was? Like 8 or 9 years ago?
Was that you were in Nymph, right? No, this was the year after you were in Nymph.
Yeah, a year or two after. I don't really remember. I remember the event.
Yes.
Because you, me, Jillian, and Colin, we did a couple of numbers
for like the kickoff
from
party.
Elway, right? Wasn't it from Elway?
No.
Well,
yeah. Yes. That's what it was.
Yeah. It was a couple numbers from Elway at some event or cons. I don't know.
We're so skinny. That shirt I'm wearing, I still have in my closet, and it is like a baby rag. When I saw this picture, I tried to squeeze it on, and it is comical. In fact, I should go grab it just to show, but I'm not going to subject you to that. It is comical.
Oh, I use that shirt as a sock now. Good Lord.
Oh man!
Anyway,
can you believe they're giving Tom shit for because he threw the Lombardi? When you have 7 Lombardi trophies, you do whatever you got to do with it.
The trashed Brady was like I'm torn between making fun of him because of his not because he got trashed, because who wouldn't, but because of his like incredibly manicured image and like robotic like personal what you're putting out into the world, and then just to be so sloppy. It was interesting.
Keith, because you did so much work to shoehorn that Rocky analogy into the whole episode, this week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady is Harland Brady running up the art museum steps.
Ooh.
Harland Brady. All right.
Harland Brady running up the steps, the Philadelphia Art Museum steps. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Well, there it is. We have a very Philly episode.
It's true. And you know what? Good for us.
Every time I go home to see the in-laws, like we drive right by the steps. Okay. So congratulations to,
ladies and gentlemen.
That's not the right button. Harland Brady running up the Philadelphia Art Museum steps. All right. Now it's time.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
We got to go to the one-shots for this because it's that important, I think.
Very important.
I was feeling a little down this morning. Jen went to work. I've been, the weather sometimes gets me into my funk. I've been in a funk. And wasn't jumping out of my chair to do the podcast this week, as sometimes happens. And so you and I take turns kind of pulling each other out of the hole sometimes, just so we don't miss a week. And I got to tell you, this week, what pulled me out of the hole was the practice. Damn. What a good episode, man. It had it all. It had everything we love. We love an A story. You know what I mean? We love a focused A story. We love an excellent guest star. We love litigation. We love when we get to see basically all of the high points of the trial. On top of that, give me excellent acting. Give me a case that I care about. Yes, have we gone up against big pharma before? Yes, ostensibly. And have we hit a lot of these sort of beats before? Yes, the cancer cluster. We've also dropped some of them like a dead weight. But here, it all coalesced. It's like they were like, you know what? We need to do this right. We need to do the case better. We need to do the resolution better. Let's just give it another swing. And they did it. And they knocked it out of the park. And a big part of that is they were like, let's leave our normal prosecutors out of it. Let's leave our normal DAs out of it. Let's kind of bring in a fresh pair of eyes on the writing team. They sort of just wrote a standalone episode, much like that Jimmy and the death penalty episode. It's sort of like, let's just look at this one isolated, and it is better for it. I'll let you go into depth a little bit more, and then we can, come back together. But I'm feeling bullish because I had such a good time, and I viscerally was pulling for Harland. I was not exaggerating when I was cursing. I get very impassioned, and this little girl deserved it, and the point that they were making, the larger point about, like Keith mentioned, the conflict of interest in some of this big pharma funding the research and funding the advertisement and marketing is really crazy. And I'm giving it a 9.25 spare tires, which is quite bullish indeed.
Yeah, no, I was actually similarly in need of a pick-me-up, and was even though I watched this episode 2 days ago, I was again picked up by this episode, and I really liked it. And it's funny, you called it a standalone episode. In a lot of ways, it is. It's the whole story is told within one episode. It's not serialized. There's not much coming from before. However, in order to have this episode work, you have to eat your vegetables and earn this. And you earn this because if Ernie came in, as awesome as Ernie is, if this was the first time we saw him, we wouldn't care about this in the way that we do. But because we have met this character and we spent time with this character, and they let him lose, they let the likable guy lose and develop this relationship between Ernie and Eugene, so that we've seen them come together. So it's about that relationship as much as it is Ernie's confidence or Harland's confidence going in. So not only have we earned the spending an entire episode on this character, you've earned a departure from your main cast, because you can't just, this episode really wasn't about our main cast. It really wasn't about the practice. It was about Harland Bassett. And so you have to lay a lot of groundwork in order for that to work and not feel like something weird, like what happened to the practice. So I really like that. I feel like they really did earn all of that. The other thing that you talked about was the fact that this episode is about litigation. And I really, really liked that too, because if you go back and you think about it, contrary to most of this series, in this case, there weren't any twists and turns. There were no surprises, no plan B. There was no surprise witness. There was no new information that came in that shocked everybody. It was just both sides litigating their positions as well as they could. And to trust your actors, your writers, and to trust your audience enough to allow that to happen. We're not, there's no crazy thing. Nobody's going to get murdered. No one's going to find out, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to litigate the case, and that's enough. I really, really liked it. And, it's similar to The Confession, where you've done enough character work in developing these people and developing the context. You don't need to explain it all. Let's just litigate this case and let that be enough. And that's what happened here. So as a result, it's another one of those examples of the types of episodes that I really, really, really like on The Practice. So I am going to give it 9.62 spare tires.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
9.62.
9.62. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, it is a top 5 episode for me.
It's good, man.
And coincidentally, it is the second highest rated episode on IMDb. Everybody loves Ernie Sabella. So, so anyway, that's it, folks. You have listened to another episode of the Out of Practice podcast. Thanks so much for listening and cheering us up all by ourselves and our cat farts. You can email us about it at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice Podcast. You can find our blog and find the rankings. Where does this sit when I update it someday? outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. You can rank us. Help us by joining the jury and leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other service of your choice. This episode is brought to you by generous donations from Leanne Wrights. Go buy her book, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Navoa, and Jennifer Matsanova.
If you'd like to join them, you've only got 30 seconds to do so, as is generally the case.
Good save.
You can do so by giving us a one-time donation or a monthly contribution, which really does help. I'm not kidding. You can find those links in the show notes, along with links to buy Leanne's book and or Keith's book, happily entitled The Farmer Who Does Some Shit.
The Farmer and the Two-Faced Lord.
A shout out to Keith's grandpa, wherever the next plane might be. We hope that you are enacting the change you did down here, wherever that may be. Hey, Adrian! We did it! We shot some laser sounds!
Laser sounds!